My name is Stephen Tonkin. I'm the eldest son of Joy and Skip Tonkin. I'm the eldest of six children, and I'm very pleased to be here to talk a little bit about the history of my father. Now, his name is Berwick Carline Tonkin, but for his whole lifetime he was known as Skip. The reason he was called Skip was, as a lad, he used to sail with his dad, and his dad called him the Little Skipper. Now that stuck from a very young age right through to, as we know, his professional life. Dad had an idyllic life as a kid. Very enjoyable times at the beach, on the water, at primary school at Wallaroo. However, coming to Adelaide, I think his technical bent was realised when he was able to go to the Adelaide Tech for his high school times. In 1941, he completed his studies at Adelaide Tech with his leaving certificate, and he took a job at General Motors as an engineering and management cadet. Now that lasted for 2 years. Dad thoroughly enjoyed that work, but it was in the middle of the war, and 3 weeks after Dad's 18th birthday, he signed up for the RAAF. He became a warrant officer and a navigator in the B-24 Lancaster bombers. He finished his time in the services in December of 46, and immediately received a Commonwealth Scholarship for returned servicemen, and he undertook studies in civil engineering at the School of Mines. Dad spent 2 years there studying full-time and gained his engineering certificate, and that was in 1948. It was about that time, or the year before that, he met Mum. He was living in Woodville, and Mum was a Woodville girl, and when they got married, they were able to stay in the district, and he joined the Woodville Council as assistant engineer to Mr. DeBell. He worked for the council for over 4 years, at the time studying for his professional engineering qualifications. And when he got those qualifications in 1954, he obviously had itchy feet, and he was ready to go out into the profession, doing something that not too many other engineers had done, or probably no other engineers had done, and that was to go out in a professional capacity as a civil consulting and structural engineer. When Dad left Woodville Council, his setting up was in the garage at home. We had a double garage, but no car. It was just the way it was. And Dad set up there, and at the same time too, it was very austere. Post-war, 1955, things were pretty tough. And so Dad set up, he had his drawing desk, and he had his whatever equipment he could at the time. In fact, I guess he had a staff and a theodolite, lots of pens, lots of pencils, and that was about it. After several years, I think probably from 55 to about 58 or 57, Dad was by himself. John Moss came on the scene. John was a young engineer, I think a little bit younger than Dad, but not much. But John was a pretty smart cookie, and he and Dad got on extremely well, and I think they both had different skills, different but compatible skills. And they worked together in the garage until I think about 60, when they went into the Waterman's building at 408 King William Street. Dad and John got on extremely well. I think John had different desires as far as his lifestyle went, and so Kim had come on board while John was still there, Kim Reid, and so I think John probably felt fairly comfortable in going, because Kim was a real hotshot. He was a brilliant man, wonderful character, beaut bloke, as we all know, and he and Dad made a tremendous team.
I'm Barry Hagan. My roles at Tonkin started with the classification of senior engineer. I became an associate, then a partner and a director, and finally a deputy managing director. When John Moss left the partnership, Skip asked if I would be interested in joining the TAP practice, then BC Tonkin and Associates. I thought about it for a little while, not long, and decided that yes, I would like to join the practice. And that I started with BC Tonkin and Associates in December 1969 as a senior engineer.
So Skip and Kim, who were in the practice when you started,
Yes.
were known for their skills in stormwater engineering and hydrology. You came in with a slightly different skill set.
Yes and no. Skip did have some local government clients, and as a matter of fact, when I was city engineer at Port Adelaide, I engaged the practice to do a couple of survey and road designs for me. So he did have some presence in local government. But I guess I added to the skill set by my background in local government and the network that I had in local government. And that further expanded the practice's involvement in the local government industry, and particularly in the civil side of it. We were one of the first local practices to embrace computing, and the stormwater drainage program, which was called GenDrain, was innovative, was one of the first. To assist in our stormwater drainage work, we employed a meteorologist, and that was unheard of in an engineering practice at the time. We were always inclusive. When I came to Tonkins, I was the third engineer and the total staff was 13. Most of the rest of the staff were drafters, and at that time there were 2 female drafters, and shortly thereafter there were 3 female drafters. We employed the first female engineer in consulting practice in Adelaide at least, and there were all those sorts of innovative things right through my time at Tonkins.
Hi, I'm Simon Reid. I'm the second oldest of 4 children of Jill and Kim Reid. Bit of history, I was born in 1968. My older sister was 66. She was born in Whyalla and Dad was working for the NWS department at that time. Within a couple of years, Dad had moved back to Adelaide and was working in the NWS department back in Adelaide. And I think he'd achieved quite a promotion and was in charge of quite a group of engineers within the NWS. So it looked like at the time he was on the fast track to success within the government. At that time, he met Skip Tonkin and left the government. I do remember the business wasn't always rosy in terms of cash flow. I mean, every business has its ups and downs, and I do remember times when we were growing up, when we sort of knew that the business was a little bit tough, and I remember Dad talking about having to lay people off and having to go through that process of working out who or how or why some people had to go. And certainly, all through his career, I knew that the pressure of finding the work to keep the business going and to keep the people that were working at Tonkins and their families, keep them well and in money, was very important to him, and he felt the pressure of that all the time. And I think probably to go on from that too, probably one of the most critical times that I can remember in Tonkins was just after Craig Gilbert's death. And I know Dad had virtually retired and Craig was running the business, and there was that time when there was a lot of upheaval in Tonkins, and as you know, a lot of change happened. Yeah. And it was difficult.
It was hard.
And it was difficult for Dad, as it was difficult for everybody here.
Hi, my name's Leanne Gilbert and I was married to Craig Gilbert. Craig was very close with Kim. He considered him to be his mentor. a lot of people found Kim quite intimidating, but I just loved his humour. He had a very dry humour, and I always enjoyed his company, and so did our kids. But Kim and Jill, we used to socialise with them on the weekends as well, so it was more than just a business relationship.
What was it like when Craig became Managing Director?
He found it, he was very proud of what he had done, and the fact that he was so young, and that they could aspire to have him as Managing Director. He did find it a little bit overwhelming sometimes, thinking about all the families and everything that this whole business meant. But yeah, he enjoyed it, I think. We were very proud of him.
What was it like, the diagnosis and his ultimate passing?
Well, here we go. We were very much supported by Tonkins, again, as a family, and we continue to be supported and included with Tonkins.
You and Erin have stayed involved in the business in the intervening years.
Yeah.
Why?
It's a part of him. It's very much a part of him. It was a very big part of our lives. And we have a lot of friends still working here, and we see them quite often.
Craig and myself met first year uni. We became friends pretty early on in our uni career. I managed to get a job with Tonkin in about 1996. So Craig had already been within the business for, it must be getting close to 7 or 8 years before I started. And then when I started with Tonkin, Craig was just about to, well, I think he got appointed the Deputy Managing Director around about that time. And so he was a big support to Kim and a big support to the rest of the business, and it was really the perfect succession because him and Kim were very good together, and you know, they bounced off each other, but Craig was definitely the young person coming up, and with Skip and Kim carrying the business for all those years, having someone like Craig coming on board was just, it almost looked like the perfect succession plan.
Well, Craig was a young man with a much wiser head on his shoulders. I mean, it was probably unusual to entrust the business to somebody so young. You know, because I mean, he was way younger than me, way younger than Graham, you know, but we all had the confidence in him. So for him to lose his battle so early in life, very tragic. But left the business in a very tragic environment too, because, you know, I guess Craig was identified as a good leader and would lead us, and you know, we thought, the board at the time, you know, well, how good is this? We've just got a young, enthusiastic, well-respected CEO, and unfortunately he could never reach his potential.
Yeah, towards the end of Craig's life, he had the opportunity to have discussions with Engineers Australia about the idea of an engineering award in his honour. And after he passed, some friends through uni formed a committee together with Engineers Australia and formed the Craig Gilbert Leadership Award for the third year student that showed exemplary leadership. As that award came in, the industry supported it with financial contributions, and the Craig Gilbert family was able to attend the annual dinner on an annual basis. And I think that was a really powerful thing for the family to have as they grieved for the loss, but also the recognition that Craig got for a decade afterwards as that award went on was fantastic.
A lot of things had to change quickly because we had to go back a step and find a new leader, which, you know, Kim Reid offered to come back as an interim, you know, because we did need somebody straight up, and it was, I guess, a pretty unanimous decision that we shouldn't have a knee-jerk reaction and just go and find somebody. So Kim did come back from retirement for probably over a year, I think, in the end. It took a while just to steady the ship, and then Ken Short took over from Kim after that.
Yeah, it was tough. I mean, Kim stepped back into the MD role, you know, which is probably a big thing after having, you know, retired in inverted commas. And I think he might have done that for probably 12 or 18 months or so. And, you know, really it was sort of like, well, who's going to take over? Because up to that point in time, you know, we all had our roles. I think we were all pretty happy with them, and you know, I thought we had quite a good team with Craig in charge. I think Rod was sort of looking after the practice management sort of side of things. You know, I think I was technical sort of manager type role. Yeah, it was a good group. And then who was going to take over was the big question. And I think I was the last one to step back. It was not, you know, it was sort of okay, but I'm much happier. I was much happier doing technical work. So I did it for a while, and I was happy when there was somebody else who could do it. Yeah.
It was very important that Ken took on the role when he did. The business needed someone to steady the ship, and he took that role on not as preference for what he wanted to do, but for what the business needed him to do. He took it on and did it well. As part of Ken's role within early in his leadership, we were able to win the Telstra Small Business Award in South Australia as the best small business in South Australia. And that was a testament from the work that was done leading up to Ken's role, but also at the start of Ken's role within the business.
He took on a lot. Like he was pretty much our IT manager as well, so he would do all the backups and work out all that systems and work out what had to get archived and all that, all done by himself on top of all of his other workloads. He did 6-day weeks for probably, 10 years. So you come in any Saturday, Ken would always be here. So he was a hard worker.
We formed an executive management team with Phil Crawley and Paul Otbuddy, myself and Ken. We worked together. The business was still a relatively small business, and we needed to transition it. Ken led the way with his very much hands-on style. He helped us develop the systems within the business, enabled us to grow in an environment where the industry was growing. I think the business probably doubled in size during that period. Towards the end of that period, we needed to review the governance structure within the business. Overall, Ken's period in the business really did set the business up for the next phase that we're still going through.
In 2011, there was a little bit of turmoil in the business as some things happened that meant there was some changes. And in about March of 2011, Ken made the decision that he didn't think it was right for him to be the managing director anymore, that he should return to a technical role. And the board embarked on a process to replace Ken. Through that process, progressively, I became more clear in my mind that I actually wanted to do it. While I didn't think I was ready or experienced enough, I had the passion to do it. And in June of 2011, the board made the decision that I would be the next managing director and CEO of Tonkin. I was lucky in that, being the 5th leader of the business, I knew all 4 of my predecessors. So I hadn't worked in the business with Skip, but I had worked while Kim was in the managing director seat, while Craig Gilbert was in the managing director seat, and while Ken was in the managing director seat. And I'd had a relationship with Skip that meant I'd had conversations with him along the way. And with all of those people and with every leader that I've ever experienced, there are things that you love about how they go about doing what they do, and there are things you go, oh, I probably wouldn't do it that way. And for me, it was a case of going, Tonkin was a really good business with a great foundation based around the culture of who the people were inside the business and the technical quality of the work that we did. And I wanted to really build on that. But I wanted to do it in my style, and I always described particularly Skip, Kim and Craig as being guys that were very much out the front. They were larger than life personalities, they were full of energy. That's not me. I'm an extreme introvert and I'm far more comfortable by myself, having time to think about things. And so I needed to build a team and a business that worked for my style, being quite different to theirs. Our business is built on employing really good people, giving them freedom, giving them a place where they can actually belong and be part of, doing exceptional quality work for clients where you build a relationship over years and years. So we like having clients that we work for over decades, and there are clients that the first client we ever had is still a client today. They've changed the name of their organisation and the shape of it on occasion, but they're still a client today. And that's those relationships that see things through, coupled with the technical ability that exists within the business, is what makes the history of the business so strong, but also the current of the business so strong.